All right, good morning, Alabama exporters and trade and business experts. Welcome to today's webinar where you're going to learn a little bit about some of the best practices in the digital realm to make 2022 your best export year yet. We really appreciate your time today and taking time out of your morning to be here, and I hope you will find this a great investment of your time today. As we give everybody a few seconds to finish logging in and getting settled, we'll start with a short roundtable of introductions of the great exporters and trade experts on today's panel. And there's a few of us here today. So starting off from the Alabama International Trade Center, Carolyn Turner will be joining us. Also from the Department of Commerce, the Alabama Department of Commerce, Beau and Jeremy Wolfe are going to be joining us today. And we also have an Alabama case study from Polyvance. Kurt Lamon, who is president at Polyvance, is joining us today. And finally, rounding it out from the IBT Online team, Susanna Hardy, our Chief Content Officer, and myself, Adrian Biller, Head of Business Development here at IBT Online. It's a pleasure to be with you today. A little bit about IBT Online, just as we get started, and very, very briefly. IBT in the IBT and IBT.ONL, which many of you have seen, stands for International Business and Technology. And quite simply, we're a digital marketing and technology agency based here in the US that is helping US exporters in growing their international sales, their brand, and their business to their top export markets. We were recognized in doing so, in providing that support for US exporters with the President's E Award very recently, for our contribution to the expansion of U.S. exports and the success of our clients, something that we are extremely proud of. Some additional just quick facts about us. We're a U.S.-based company based actually here in the state of Florida, where I am. We've been in the industry for over 20 years, in which time we have developed partnerships with over 25 U.S. state development agencies, including, very proudly, with the Export Alabama Alliance, which we have representatives from here today. And we've delivered over 2,000 of our online global programs to over 650 corporate clients in 24 different languages in over 40 different countries and 65 different target markets. We are also very inclined to deliver free resources, 800 of those, in fact, just like this webinar, but also in the shape of short videos, blogs, infographics, and other media about the online world in different jurisdictions. And finally, some impressive numbers there at the bottom, which really just speaks to our obsession on feedback and client satisfaction and working towards achieving your goals. So in terms of today's agenda, which is jam-packed, and we've got a lot of interesting people that you'll want to get to know. We'll start with Jeremy and Beau, who will be providing an overview of the many great resources that the Alabama Department of Commerce offers to Alabama's businesses and exporters. They'll be followed by Carolyn, who will discuss the Alabama International Trade Center and the SBDC network and additional resources available there. Then Susanna will discuss why Alabama exporters, whether you're a manufacturer, a service provider, or an agribusiness, why you need to pivot to digital to accelerate your international growth in 2022. This will be followed by a successful Alabama case study, Kurt Lamon of Rainsville-based Polyvance. Then I'll come back and I'll give you some details on best practice website localization for Alabama companies and discuss some key online marketing trends in 2022 to make this your best export year. Before finally wrapping it up with some takeaways and, of course, your questions, which, by the way, you may submit at any time using the chat feature, which is enabled. We'll also be hitting you with a poll here and there just to make sure you're awake and to get some real time feedback from you. But we'll let you know, we'll give you a heads up when those are coming up. So with that, it is my pleasure to welcome Jeremy Wolfe and Beau of the Alabama Department of Commerce. And guys, the floor is yours. Welcome back. Over to you.
All right. Good morning, and thank you to everyone for being here. We're so glad that you all have been able to join us for this webinar to discuss international online business development tools for Alabama exporters. We're excited to present today's webinar in conjunction with our partners at IBT Online, as well as our partners at the Alabama International Trade Center, represented today by Carolyn Turner. As was stated, my name is Jeremy Wolfe, and I work as an international trade specialist with the Alabama Department of Commerce International Trade Division. Our mission here at the Alabama Department of Commerce is to help find companies overseas markets for selling their products and services in order to increase Alabama's footprint around the world. We offer many different solutions to help our Alabama companies locate these markets and figure out the best way for these companies to efficiently and effectively enter these markets. Normally, this would be through activities such as trade shows and trade missions, which are starting to kick back up now. But in the ever-changing landscape of the COVID-19 pandemic and anything happening around the world, we've come up with some other creative ways to help, such as webinars and our partnership with IBT Online to offer website localization services. During this time, we've also added to the list of activities that are reimbursable through the State Trade Expansion Program, or the STEP Grant Fund. These activities include a host of digital services and different certifications that were not previously reimbursable under the STEP grant. If you have any questions regarding these offerings or are interested in making use of our STEP grant program to expand your exports, please feel free to contact me at the information that's listed on the slideshow. If you all have any further questions regarding the services offered by us at the Alabama Department of Commerce or any of our other partners, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Beau, my colleague at the Alabama Department of Commerce. Thank you once again for your time and to joining us. And with that, I'd like to pass it to my colleague, Beau, to talk a little bit more about what we do.
Yes, thank you, Jeremy, and thank you everyone for being here today. We are excited to be putting on this webinar with IBT Online, Alabama International Trade Center, and especially happy to hear from Polyvance, one of our companies today. As Jeremy mentioned, we do have the STEP grant available for qualifying Alabama small businesses, and there are many ways in which it can be used. We won't go into detail about that too much, but one of the things we'll talk about today is website localization and translation, search engine optimization, and that is eligible for reimbursement up to $6,000. Now, if you'd like further information, I would encourage you to look at our website, which is on the slide there, www.madeinalabama.com. Then if you click on Business Development Division toward the top, and then toward the left, Export and Trade, you can find information, a link on the STEP grant, and then also a link on the Export Alabama Alliance. And as has been mentioned before, the Export Alabama Alliance, it's a group of agencies and organizations from around the state that all work toward that common goal of helping Alabama companies to increase their exports. I think there's another slide on that here. We come at it from different directions, and there you go, thank you. We complement one another. So we work toward that common goal, and we can help in different ways. And I've found out that companies aren't always clear as far as who works for Alabama Department of Commerce, who works for Alabama International Trade Center, but basically you can come to any of us, and if we don't know the answer, we can find someone who can. Again, happy to be here today and look forward to hearing what we can learn and how we can help you better.
Perfect, wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeremy, Beau, and thank you for that overview of the Export Alabama Alliances and the many services that are available from the Department of Commerce. And with that, on the other side of the Export Alabama Alliance, I would love to introduce you to Carolyn Turner of the Alabama International Trade Center. Carolyn, good morning, welcome, and the virtual floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So as just said, I'm Carolyn Turner. I'm one of the international trade specialists with the Alabama International Trade Center. We work alongside the other resources in the state as part of the Export Alabama Alliance. And as Beau said, you know, we joke that when you get one of us, you get all of us, because we come as a team. We all perform slightly different functions in the state just to try to help companies succeed any way possible. So the Trade Center is part of a larger network called the Small Business Development Center. That's actually a national organization funded by the Small Business Administration. And there are people like myself in every state. So Alabama is not the only one that has this resource. In the state of Alabama, we have a presence at all of the major universities, and most of those locations focus on what I call domestic business assistance. So our Small Business Development Center advisors work with startup assistance, business plans, growth strategies, marketing, hiring and firing, HR, tax questions. Our Huntsville office just did a 4-part series on how companies can learn how to use Canva to develop their own digital marketing. So the resources really are unique, and we have expertise on just about everything you could think of. We also have government contracting assistance through our PTAC group. We have a capital access team that helps companies apply to working capital, bank loans, financing loans, and also trying to raise equity if that's needed. And then the Trade Center, we cover the whole state. So we work with small and medium-sized companies to help them grow their international business. Most of our assistance is on the export side, but we also work with importers. And the main thing that we do is provide market research and training. So that's the role that we play in the state and how we assist companies. So if you are considering exporting, we do a lot of that preliminary market research to help you figure out what markets would be a good fit for your products and services, the regulations that have to be followed, and help you really develop a strategy, because it's impossible to go after the whole world at one time. So when you're considering working with a company like IBT Online to develop a localized website in a foreign market, well, first you have to figure out what markets you want to go after. And that's where the Trade Center can really come in. We also do a lot of training. So we have training webinars that are available on demand. We've partnered with NASBite Trade Passport to have access to 40+ training webinars on every topic for international business you could think of. And then we also do one-on-one training. Over the last 2 weeks, I spent 4 hours training a brand new to export company on the basics of international. We also provide a basic website analysis and search engine optimization. I think that's also a good stepping stone to get you ready to work with a company like IBT Online. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to contact me, and then I'll pass it back to IBT Online.
I couldn't get my button to work. Thank you very much, Carolyn and Jeremy and Beau. But before I launch into the great pleasures of website localization, I wanted to ask the audience a little bit if they have ever, taken advantage of any of the services offered in. You've got so many services in Alabama, and Alabama companies are really sort of, spoiled for choice virtually. So, have you ever taken advantage of any of these services offered by Beau and Jeremy and Caroline and their teams? And just to give you a little bit of feedback, first of all, thank you. Suddenly there's a big rush and suddenly everyone answered. Virtually everyone answered. There's actually it's about 50-50 split between people who are still thinking about it and yes, regular people who are there sort of frequently asking for your services. And again, I wanted to thank you all for voting so promptly. That was great, much appreciated. Right, I'm going to close that poll and just sort of get back to why we thought we'd start with the why of we think Alabama companies would benefit from business development tools that are online tools. So just sort of starting this, and I know nobody wants to talk about the pandemic, especially not after what's happening else in the world, but these are long-term trends for the online side. We've seen, since the emergence of the web and of e-commerce, we've seen these things growing at double-digit rates throughout the world and becoming more complex, becoming more ubiquitous. This has been totally turbocharged in the pandemic. With even sort of mature e-commerce markets, like for example, the United States, growing suddenly at like 35-40%. So this has now become such a defining part of any business strategy. Is what are your online tools? How are you reaching your international markets without online tools? So it's not just that these online tools are good practice; they are now absolutely, we feel, mandatory for companies to take advantage of and to be part of the coming sort of the here and now. So they're really ubiquitous in a real way, and I'd say there's really almost like a dividing line between companies that are really putting forward their online tools and making sure that they're an integral part of their strategy and business development, and those companies which are still struggling to make sense out of it. And our part of our job is to help you, turbocharge your own online trends. I'm not going to talk too much about big numbers because they're big and boring, but let's talk about just the very highlight of them. So this is probably the most reliable source we have found of the online tracking online activity. So out of a population of what are we now, 7.5 billion people in the world, 62% of us, that's 4.9 billion people on the planet, are online. And they're not just online, they're online for 7 hours a day. So just 4.9 billion people, 7 hours a day. And of which 2.5 hours are spent on social media. This is very good news for Alabama exporters. You know where your prospective clients are. You also know where your prospective distributors, suppliers, employees, contractors, you know where everybody is. They're all online. And you know how to reach them through LinkedIn, Facebook, WeChat, whatever it is, forums. So this is good news. It puts you at a similar level to big global companies. So that's our message about the online side. And really, if we're going to simplify it a little bit, there really just are these two big tools that you can have websites, and they can be tiny, they can be huge, they can be e-commerce enabled, or just brochure sites, B2B, B2C, be it government. They can be all different types of websites, but they're basically websites. Or you can have online marketing, and the two go hand in hand together. And online marketing can be everything from organic search engine marketing, to social media marketing, to paid advertisement. So there's a whole range of display to meet and suit every budget possible. So those are the two tools you want to look at. As I said, they come in all kinds of different ways. Our own specialization is in website localization, e-commerce, and in online marketing. And that's from search engine, social media marketing, and then the reporting analytics, which are so key to it. So our websites are focused on driving the top line of your business, as that's what a good website and good online marketing does. So to answer that question, why do Alabama exporters need online business development tools? We feel it's important for you to have them because the world is online. Remember that number, 4.9 billion, 7 hours a day, 2.5 hours on social media. So that these websites and online marketing get found, understood, to business. You guys are really fortunate to have these incredible champions, Beau, Jeremy, Caroline, their teams that they work with, who are there for you. And we would really encourage you to take advantage, reach out and get talking with them about their services and how they can help. One of the things that we do is these online global programs, which we have with the Alabama Alliance. And these I've put down there on the right-hand side, a couple of things that we think these programs are designed to help you with. And note, it's all about your top line. It's growing sales, generating leads, new markets, brand awareness. It's all about the top line and growing your top line side. So there you go. That's sort of our very brief online global programs for Alabama. I'm gonna, Adrian will talk about it in more detail, but right now it's this huge pleasure to pass over to Polyvance. Kurt.
Oh, yes. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kurt Lamon, the president of Polyvance. We're a small manufacturer in northeastern Alabama in Rainsville, and we, since 1981, we have manufactured plastic repair products mainly for the auto collision repair industry to help auto body shops around the country and around the world repair damaged plastic bumpers, other plastic parts, keeping those parts out of the landfill and saving people money. So yeah, we got probably traditionally 88–90% of our sales are domestic. And one of our growth strategies for 2022 was to really try to expand our export sales. And you know, I've been working with Beau and Carolyn for a long time, and I'm glad that you both mentioned the fact that you guys come as a team, because I really didn't know where the dividing line was. But indeed, if you are on this call and you have not availed yourself of their help, you definitely need to do that. They're wonderful to work with, and you know, they've helped us in every way possible. We attended a similar webinar about this time in the summer last year and discovered IBT's services. And Beau and Carolyn helped us to understand that STEP grant, the state trade expansion program. I just learned what that meant now. Thank you. They were able to foot 50% of the cost of the IBT website localization. So we got on the phone with IBT and kind of developed a strategy of what we wanted to do. We are not looking for business to consumer sales, for example. Like, we really want to expand our reach into Latin America, but we're not looking to do shipments of small orders to Latin America. We really want to introduce our products to distributors. So if you think of about an auto body shop, most of the time they're purchasing a lot of automotive paint, sandpaper, masking tape, those things. Those are those distributors, those local distributors are the ones we want to reach. So we really just needed like an online catalog or brochure, so to speak. So we made that clear to the people at IBT, and they were able to develop a couple of websites for us that had the kind of same look and feel of our US website, but one was Spanish language with a .mx domain name, and the Brazilian, which would be a Portuguese language. We weren't able to get the .br domain yet, but we plan to. But anyway, they got us started up. They developed a timeline. They performed to the timeline. I didn't realize they had the staff, people all over the world that work on the programs, but very professionally done, done on time, like I said, done on budget. So we couldn't be more pleased at this point. I think they just came online in January, so I can't really speak to, and honestly, we haven't gotten the products out there yet. There's a couple of new products that we want to put on the websites, but at least the foundations have been built. The websites are built and ready to put the new content on that we would want to push in Latin America. So probably premature to ask me how successful it's been, other than the fact that, again, the websites were done, again, on time, on budget, and very nicely done. So hats off to IBT. This slide just shows an example. On the left side there, you see this page showing our plastic welders. The one in the middle there, the 6180, that's the one that's not quite done yet. So that's the one we really want to push down there. So we have the products. We also have some training information on the website, all again translated into the local language by their team. So we provided them with the English version, and when they got done, everything was in Spanish, so or in Portuguese. So again, one of the biggest advantages of working with IBT we found was that we could have probably struggled and done this ourselves with the help of people off of Upwork or something like that, but it would have taken us months and months and months, and it's just, we don't have the staff really on hand to shepherd that program along. So by engaging the help of people at IBT, we just basically said, hey, we're going to do what we do best. We're going to make plastic welders and sell them, and we're going to pay you guys to do what you do best, which is develop local language websites. So worked out great, and I couldn't be more pleased with the results. And I'm done. Okay.
Wonderful, Kurt. Thank you so much for relaying some of your experience with that. I guess a question, we said questions at the end, but I did see this question sort of just percolate through, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting one to ask Kurt. There's a question here about STEP grant utilization and if you can reuse and reapply for STEP grant to keep building international websites. Can you speak to that? Can you speak to your experience of expanding your web presence beyond the two that you did?
Oh yeah, well, we also did immediately after engaging IBT to do those websites, we engaged them to build a Japanese website. We already have a distributor there, so we were just creating a website to support him. And so they're working on that now. It's just about done, and hopefully just in time for the trade show, which is just a couple of weeks away, that he's going to. So, and we didn't even apply for the STEP grant on that one. So we were paying out of our pocket on that, but I guess we discovered how IBT is able to deliver, and we felt like it was worth, paying the extra money. Just, again, we were very fortunate and happy to have received the STEP grant for the initial project, but yeah, it's definitely worth the money.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so very much, Kurt, for relaying some of your success story with your websites and the experience so far. We look forward to hearing back once, maybe in a year's time, when the websites have been live for a little bit, and we'll be able to share some more of your success with it.
Sure. Right.
But now, great, wonderful. But now it is my pleasure just to talk in general about website localization for Alabama exporters, and what are some of the best practices behind building international websites to drive revenue and to create business leads for you. So one of the first questions that I hear very often from exporters is, why can't I just use my US website to go global? And you may have an international website, you may have a great US website with a wonderful design that's doing well for you in the domestic market. And you may think, well, let me just add a couple of foreign language pages, Spanish language page here, Japanese language page there, Portuguese language page there, and surely the search will do the rest, right? The search engines will do the rest. But unfortunately, that's just not the case, because that's not really how search engines work. Search engines in general, and we're using Google here as the example with 91% of all web search traffic, but this also applies really to things like Bing and Baidu, and even YouTube and Amazon and Facebook these days. They're all search engines. They're all searcher centric. And what that means essentially is that the algorithm behind the search engine is delivering results that it believes are most relevant to the searcher. Think about it this way. Google itself has 192 different country and regional specific search engines to deliver results that it believes are hyper relevant to searchers. So adding a couple of pages to your website, unless they are very, very highly relevant to your target audience, you're pretty much going to be invisible in some of these international markets. Let me give you an example. Say you're targeting the German market. Well, your searcher in that market, whether it's B2B or B2C, it really doesn't matter. Your searcher is more than likely going to be searching in German from google.de. And so they're going to also want to see metrics or measurements in metric. They're going to want to see currency in euro. They're going to want to see certain things that they expect from a website. And unless your website has those elements, unless your website is in German, unless your website is sitting on a .de domain, unless your website has those elements of metrics and currency, you might as well miss a lot of buyer persona traffic that could be coming to your website. So think of Google as a lot of different country-specific localized search engines. Here's another practical example of how country-specific Google's produces results essentially that it believes are relevant to each specific searcher. Susanna, who's in the UK, and one of our colleagues over in Huntsville, they ran the search for the same search terms, squeakless dog toy, both here and in the UK. And I just want you to see the different search results on your screen. The one in the US produced results that we're all sort of familiar with. We got Chewy, Amazon, a Yahoo form with a relevant piece of content, etc. However, Susanna, and again, this is Google and same search engine, same search terms in English, got completely different result sets. She got a website called barksandbunnies.com, typed for paws.co.uk. And a different result on amazon.co.uk that is not the same as the one that I got on the US website. So again, same language, same search engine, and completely different result sets based on where the searcher is located. And then add a second layer to that and think about language, and think about how vocabulary changes across even the same language. And here's an example of localizing and using keywords to very much generate traffic in your target market. There are two ways that you can translate car into Spanish. There is auto and there is coche. And these terms are sometimes used interchangeably. However, when you think about target markets, and this is an example that we ran for a client that was selling cart accessories and trinkets into Mexico, in deciding which one of those terms to use, look at just how much more the term auto is used in Mexico as opposed to coche. Versus in Spain, if the same company wanted to export this product into Spain, just look at how many times the word coche as opposed auto is used. So in Mexico, we definitely wanted to use auto. In Spain, we definitely wanted to use coche because that is what the search term being used in those particular markets was. So again, same language, same search engine, different keywords for those different markets enable in order to capture the most amount of traffic for the client. So keep in mind the translation and keyword research is just one aspect of having a localized website. There's a lot of other things involved. In order for search engines to find you, you need to make it as easy as possible for that algorithm to realize that your website is specific for that market and it's relevant for that specific searcher that's entering the relevant terms. So for example, Google has, and just think about it this way, Google has to index billions and billions and billions of pages and comb through them in order to figure out what is most relevant to that searcher. Our job is to make it easy for that algorithm to find your website and say, this website is relevant to this searcher and therefore should be in the top results page. So to make it easier on that algorithm, which is the same across Google and Bing and all the other ones, you really should localize your website and your marketing. And that includes things beyond just translation. It includes hosting your website inside of the target market, registering the relevant domain names. Kurt was just mentioning that he's in the process of registering his Brazilian domain name to make sure he has more domain authority and traffic going into that target market, making sure that it's compliant with regulation in that market. So for example, in Europe with GDPR and among other factors that are important to making sure that your website can be found. Done right, this is what it looks like. So if you're wondering, okay, well, can it really generate those results? Take a look at this next site where you can actually see how well a localized website can work. What you're looking at is the result of traffic over 1 month's time to a client's website that we built in Mexico. So it's on a .mx domain, it's hosted in Mexico, and there is search engine optimization work done for that specific market. Now, as you can see, for the results on 1 month, the majority of traffic, 87% of the traffic, so nearly all the traffic to this website is actually coming from their target market, from Mexico. 98%, so almost all of it, is coming from Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America, so Mexico, obviously, and then a little bit from Chile, a little bit from Colombia, and then almost a negligible number is coming from outside of that market. So what that really shows you is that we are building a website that the Google search algorithm believes is very relevant to a Mexican searcher and only a little bit relevant to people in Chile and Colombia, and basically irrelevant to everybody else outside of that target market. On the right-hand side of that, what you have is just another example of how you can target specific areas or neighborhoods. So you see that most of the traffic, for example, for this client is coming from the Mexico City metropolitan area. Just a couple of examples here of Alabama companies that have localized their websites. One is a company called Sepco. They manufacture fluid sealing solutions. They're based just outside of Birmingham. And so they wanted also a Spanish language website to target the Latin American market, to generate brand awareness, support existing customers, and to showcase unique selling points of their product. That has helped them drive the business forward, has helped them generate leads into those markets, and more importantly, to support their existing distributor in Mexico. Another example to showcase here is a company called Senbevo, based in the Huntsville area, so northern Alabama. And Senbevo took on the project to, it's a bio products company. Basically, they built a website in Japan, which will help them create brand awareness and brand positioning in the Japanese market, to position themselves as a market leader for their product in that market. And importantly, to support local distributors, to support the local distributor that they had in Japan in generating traffic, brand awareness, and lead generation, and therefore driving the business forward. Finally, another aspect, an important aspect of localization is e-commerce. E-commerce is increasing in importance on the B2B side, not just on B2C. And there are a lot of case usages for companies applying e-commerce for B2B usage. You have on the screen 2 examples. The scope is always driven by your needs and objectives, but the primary objective is always for your company to be found, to be understood, and to be easy to do business with, enabling you to sell online into your target markets when you are ready to do so. So beyond that, let's discuss a little bit about international online marketing trends for 2022 and why B2B companies should invest. Oh, I believe we have a poll. It is time for a poll.
I don't mean to interrupt, but if I could quickly just launch a poll, just to ask if anyone would like more information on these website localization, the Alabama Online Global programs, grants. Let us know. We can send you some emails. We'll send you some resources that you can look through. So, we'll get in touch, whatever. So if you do have an interest in that, just please let us know. And again, thank you for being such a responsive audience. Just right on the buttons there. That's great to see. Thank you very much. So, and we're delighted to see so many of you are interested in learning more. That's great. Thank you very much. I'm going to close the poll and give back to Adrian. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Susanna, and thank you very much, everybody, for participating in that poll. The next section of this, and I'll be short here, but is really sort of what are the online marketing trends in 2022 to look for, and to what are some of the best practices to support your business development using international online marketing to drive exports in 2022. This is another question that we hear pretty often is, do I, as a B2B company, need a social media strategy? Is it worth it? And the answer, in our opinion, but it's also supported by the amount of data that's available out there, is a resolute yes. Susanna talked about this a little bit earlier. The fact there are trends in the industry, the decentralization of a workforce, people working from home. We know where people are. We know where buyers are these days, thanks to online tools. And the answer is they're online. They're usually on platforms, different platforms depending on the persona, but they might be on channels like LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. So depending on who your international buyer persona is, we can absolutely leverage one of the most powerful ways to connect with your audiences, which would be social media, and attract buyers to your products and services, and giving you the ability to directly have conversations with those individuals at a time and a place of their choosing. And really what's most exciting about it is that it's leveled the playing field for all brands to get visibility and engagement, regardless of size and industry. So you can play using these tools at the same level as multi-billion-dollar enterprises and have comparable results. And just like any business strategy, you can adjust and optimize your social media presence to really align with your overall business objectives, which could be to generate e-commerce sales. It could be just to generate B2B leads and meetings, or find new distributors and suppliers. This can all be achieved using social media tools. Now, I talked about international buyer personas, and I threw out that buzzword. Let me define that just very briefly for everybody. It's important to understand that you may have different buyer personas in the domestic market, in the United States, and internationally. And in fact, in different international markets, you may have different buyer personas. A buyer persona is just it's just a representation of your ideal customer based on demographic information and real data from your existing customers. And really what's important to note is that, you know, in times like these, those buyer personas can be very different. In the United States, you might do a bit more direct sales. For example, Kurt was stating that as a clear example. In the United States, they have e-commerce enabled to be able to sell to sort of repair to mechanics and to repair shop owners and to be able to sell directly to them. But internationally, they're really interested in bulk orders and in bigger clients. So those are very different international buyer persona, and therefore the website strategy and therefore the social media strategy is different because we're targeting different groups of people. So on this slide, there's a couple of questions you can ask yourself, you know, to understand how different your buyer persona can be. You know, how do they find you? What do they care about? And there's also an example, which is L'Oreal. L'Oreal gets frequently cited of how spot on they are in their international marketing. What you see on here, the first image is L'Oreal's United States website, where you see women on the top floor. They are empowered, they are in charge, it's a diverse group. But the next slide, which actually shows the L'Oreal Brazil website, is completely different. In the previous two, or in the previous one, obviously there's the vision of women on the high floor. Here you can see it's more about the surroundings, more about the imagery and the background. We know they're in Brazil based on the water and the mountains. The atmosphere looks modern, but it's still tied to nature and all things that are really sort of important to Brazilian people's lives. But the messaging is even different. Here they're saying that they've been innovating for the last 60 years to share beauty with all Brazilians, and that message of inclusion is powerful in that market. And then finally here, there's another example, which is the L'Oreal Mexico website. And the L'Oreal Mexico website is different, and you'll plainly see this because it includes men, which are not included in the previous two websites. So here you have a collaborative work environment that features both men and women working together, and that again is different, and it speaks to some of the nuances in terms of the buyer persona for the Mexican market compared to the US market and compared to the Brazilian market, and how the brand is positioned in those different markets. So each buyer persona is clearly different, and the messaging is respectful of those nuances. But there's also a behavioral change, and which we'll talk about in the next slide, is really understanding how people can behave, and all buyer personas are people, but people can behave very differently across geographies and engage differently with your posts and engage differently with your campaigns. So here's an example for a client of a post that we ran. It's nearly an identical post, of course, localized, translated, but it's basically a very similar post we put up both in Mexico and in the United Kingdom on Facebook in this particular example. And what you can see is that in the in Mexico, that post generated over 20,000 engagements, which seems incredibly impressive, especially when you compare it to the UK, where you only have about 1,200 engagements. So if we just stop the analysis here, we would say, wow, job well done. Mexico is way better than the UK in terms of the performance of this post. However, there's a second layer to this, and that second layer comes when looking at what actually happens with the conversion rate. So the conversion rate is probably the most important part, is who actually went and clicked on that, went to the website and inquired or bought something or submitted a form and actually engaged with the company in a meaningful way that leads to revenue, right? And the path to revenue. So what you have here, what this graph shows is in the red and the blue bars is you know, how Mexico and the UK compare in terms of the total number of users and sessions, and, you know, how many people clicked on it, and then basically how many people sort of ended up engaging with the brand is in yellow. And basically what we can surmise from this analysis is that even though the content generated a lot more engagement, a lot more likes, and a lot more comments, and a lot more shares in Mexico, when we look for lead generation, okay, and that's what's reflected in those yellow and green bars, which is the times the number of people actually clicked on where can I buy or clicked on how do I use this. It's basically the same. So what we're actually saying on the conclusion of this entire thing is that in order to generate the same level of lead generation or the same level of revenue in each one of these two markets, you need to get a lot more engagement with the posts in Mexico than you do in the UK. So the buyer personas of the two markets are behaving very differently while engaging with basically the same content on the same social media platform. So again, that speaks to sort of the differentiation that you need to understand of how your buyers are going to behave differently to content that you are creating and putting out on social media channels. So let's talk about some best practices and what can you do really to take advantage of today's online business development tools, particularly online marketing, to do your best. Here are some recommendations. Take a screenshot, take a picture of it, save it somewhere. But my advice essentially is fewer, bigger, and better. And what that means simply is that the simplest path to success is identifying which one social media platform is really going to allow you to connect to your buyer persona in your top export market. Going through multiple social media channels, meaning you're going on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and Google ads and all this, it's likely going to stretch your resources, not just financial resources, but also human resources. It's very labor intensive, but you'll also quickly reach diminishing returns, especially if you're not creating unique content for each platform. So the beauty of online marketing is that it's scalable, and as you see success on one platform, you can then iterate the strategy for different channels. But the idea really is that you identify which platform allows you to connect most well with your international buyer persona, and that you explore that channel primarily and create curated inbound content for your buyers on that channel. The Alabama Online Global Programs also include international online marketing. So we have an option within the scope of work that's offered in the Alabama Online Global Programs that includes search engine marketing support, social media marketing support, and the business intelligence piece, the reporting and analytics, which can help you accelerate your export growth and reach your target buyer persona faster and more efficiently. So if you're interested, actually there is a poll, I believe, as well. There we go. Would you like to learn more about the online marketing programs offered through the Alabama Online Global Programs? Here's an option for those of you who may be interested in this. Great. Thank you for your enthusiastic participation. A lot of people saying, yes, let's talk about online marketing, and certainly we will connect with you. Great. All right, just a few more seconds here to get everybody a last chance to click through. Great, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think we can close it out now. And then I'm gonna just pass it over to Susanna one final time for some final takeaways and Q&A.
Thank you so much, Adrian. That was a great tour of both the website localization and online marketing, and how we're here to help together with your Alabama Alliance teams. So I just wanted to sort of give really two takeaways. That first is the slide that we saw earlier, is sort of the why we think it's really important that you get your online business development tools in order in 2022. We really think it's important that these tools are a differentiator. They start to make a real difference in your business in today's world, whether you're able to export successfully, even with the pandemic slowing down and just receding hopefully into the distance. Nevertheless, the world is more online than ever, and you're quite simply, you're expected to have those online tools, and we're here to help if we can. The Alabama Online Global Programs are designed for you. They're supported by this fantastic team you have in the state with Caroline, Beau, and Jeremy, and all your teams. So please do reach out to them and get advice, get help, whether it's about choosing which markets to go for, or how to do this if you're an early exporter, or if you're ready to go with online websites. And then I just wanted to list again the advantages of the Online Global programs. And in a few words, it's just about driving your top line, just your top line growth, whether that's through distributors, supporting distributors, like Kurt was saying for Japan, or searching out new distributors, as Kurt was mentioning for Mexico and Brazil, or directly to end B2B or B2C clients. So with that, we've got a couple of questions that have come in. I'm actually going to start with Jeremy and Beau and Caroline, if I may. How long is the application process, and how long does it take to get a STEP grant approved? I don't know, Jeremy, Beau, Caroline, who wants to apply to that one. So how long is the process? How long does it take to get it approved?
Sure. That's kind of a difficult question to ask. It's not a hard process or a long process. It's basically, we would need to talk to you and find out what you have in mind, whether website localization or another activity, and get a timeline for that, and then have you complete a brief application. It really depends on how ready the company is to move forward, but we don't have that time as far as how long it takes. It's not difficult.
Okay. Good, thank you. Another question, perhaps for you, Beau, is just we are a service company, not a manufacturing company. Can I still apply for websites STEP coverage?
Yes, they can.
Okay, good. Right. There's a question, I guess, also for Adrian. If I may. What are your top export markets that you at IBT are seeing at the moment?
That is a great question, and definitely there's shifting sands, as it were, with the top export markets. But what we have seen in the last year or so is a big focus on the USMCA region. So we're seeing a lot of projects for Mexico, for Canada, taking advantage of the trade provisions within the new trade agreement there. And then there are as well a lot of interest in e-commerce projects for Europe at the moment. That seems to be another big driver. And also as well a focus on Southeast Asia. So we've gotten a request. To build websites in Japan, of course, as is the case with Polyvance, but also in Malaysia, also in Singapore, also in Vietnam. So there's a growing interest in that market, specifically for manufacturers. There seems to be a lot of interest in those thriving and growing economies. And that's kind of where the market is growing. It'll be interesting to see sort of in the next couple of months if that shifts or not, if more transatlantic trade grows as a result of the situation that's currently ongoing in Ukraine. But that's what we've seen so far this year.
Thank you, Adrian. Kurt, if it's okay, we have a few questions also for you. There's someone asking, I understand that you have a website to support your Japanese distributor, but what about in Mexico or Brazil? Do the current websites, are you getting support from your in-market distributors, or are getting pushback from any distributors?
Good question. Yeah, we got a little bit of pushback. We've got one distributor in Costa Rica who I think he has his own designs in expanding into South America himself, and we've had a little bit of conflict about that. So that's an ongoing issue right now. We really wanted to create the Latin American websites to help us find new distributors. But we're navigating that now.
Interesting. Good to know. Interesting. And also, Kurt, how much management time did it take up for you? We are a small company and we don't have a lot of management capacity.
Very good point. Yeah, we're a small company too. We've got a total of 17 employees. So I was able, again, the scope of our website is pretty limited. I think we had about 5 or 6, 7 pages, roughly like that. And some of the content was really very copy and paste almost from our existing website. So just to get everything like where I basically just created the English version and passed it over to IBT, maybe a total of a day, 2 days, you know, and we had an hour-long Zoom meeting, I think, to kind of get things kicked off. Yeah, really the time was minimal. You do have to supply the content to IBT as far as text and the photos that they need. Just kind of visualizing the website the way you want it to look in English, and they take care of the rest.
Okay. And I guess another one for you, Kurt. You sort of answered this, but perhaps a few more details. How did you choose which markets to start with, Kurt?
Oh, well, that's a good question too. Yeah. For our products, I know that I really feel like they would appeal to countries where the labor rate is relatively low compared to the price of replacement parts. And Latin America has always stood out to me as being a great opportunity, but we've just never been able to find the right distributor. So that's our mission this year and next year, is to use the foundations of the websites built by IBT. And I can see those expanding as well as far as content goes. Right now, we just got very basic, just to show, hey, Polyvance exists, and I can read it in my own language, and I can search for it and find it. But I can see that as a platform we can grow, especially when it comes to technical training. We're building some online training on our products and how to use them. So I don't see this being an end. This is just the beginning.
Great, good. I'm glad it's just the beginning. Go on. There's a quick question, perhaps I'll answer, which is about have Apple's new privacy settings changed the return on investment on online marketing? And it's such a broad topic, it's worth a webinar on its own. What I can say is that privacy laws and data protection laws are increasing everywhere in the world. You know, it's not just Europe with GDPR. You know, Canada, Japan, India, Colombia all have and are rolling out stricter and stricter GDPR-like privacy rules. And then the big tech platforms as well are also more and more involved in privacy and data protection. All this really means for the online marketing and the websites is that the content becomes ever more important. You know, you cannot put out bad content. That's just the end of it. You know, if you put out great content, you get great ROI. Is in a nutshell on that. And then another question, just a sort of technical question about e-commerce. One of the best international platforms to build on. Again, we are platform agnostic. We don't mind which platforms, but some platforms work better than others internationally. Shopify used to be pretty crummy, but it's now really good. So we do use a lot of Shopify and build a lot of Shopify platforms. But it does have some disadvantages, and sometimes we're going more into the WooCommerce plugins as well. So there are very good platforms now to build international e-commerce sites, but remember, not all platforms are good for international. So choose your platforms carefully is the key, particularly if you're going into any languages like that have different characters, Japanese, Arabic, even German with the umlauts, you know, that plays a part. I think one last question, perhaps for Beau and Caroline and Jeremy's team. Can I apply for STEP twice?
And the answer to that question is yes.
Okay, great. In that case, that's it for the questions. I wanted to thank you all so much for attending. Beau, Jeremy, Caroline, and especially Kurt for taking the time out to present and share your experiences and the resources available to Alabama companies, and Adrian for presenting so well, and most of all to all of you to attending. We really do value the time that you've taken with us today. Thank you very, very much all, and we hope to see you all online and hopefully also offline. Come visit y'all whenever we can. Take care. Thank you very, very much. And we'll get back to those who asked it. Thank you all very, very much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye. Take care.